Growing up in the 1960s and 70s, most of us were watching 19-inch TVs. A couple people in the neighborhood had those 25-inch Zenith television consoles, which weighed like 400 pounds. Then TV sets were replaced by flat screens, and the screens kept getting bigger and bigger. 42-inch, 50, 55, 65, 75-inch. It kind of made sense. You had your home theater on the wall. But now, someone needs to explain to me how every nephew, niece, and knucklehead I know is watching all their TV on their smartphone 24/7. What is this, a 2.5-inch screen? I don't want to watch Cowboys Chiefs on here. All the players look like a bunch of ants crawling across the field. Every bit of content these young clodpoles consume fits in the palm of their hands. Ever try watching Titanic on your iPhone? The ship is this big. It's supposed to be Titanic. My parents used to tell me not to sit too close to the TV. Where am I supposed to sit these days when the TV is the size of a credit card? We have lost our ever-loving minds, and I don't think we're going to find them again. Just give me back my 19 inches, or I will go gambling. Norman Chad. Norman Chad. Norman Chad. Norman Chad. Norman Chad. And welcome to Gambling Mad with Norman Chad. I am Norman Chad, filling in for a vacationing Norman Chad. Gambling Mad, as always, brought to you by Fritos, picked fresh off of Central California trees every morning, direct to your retailer every afternoon. And by Fresca, refreshing, remarkable. It's Fresca. Fritos and Fresca, it's a meal. Coming up today on the show, our NFL picks, I hope they get better. Shohei Ohtani bobbleheads, I hope they have enough. And a fantasy football dispute, I hope nobody gets hurt. But first, let's talk secondhand smoke. Casinos remain one of the last places in America in which smokers can still smoke somewhat freely. This is good for smokers and bad for everyone else. Now, let me interrupt myself. I'm allowed to interrupt myself, correct? I can? Thank you. Okay. Let me interrupt myself to say that I've always felt bad for my friends who smoke cigarettes. It's incredibly unhealthy and it's incredibly addictive, but that's their choice. The rest of us, knowing that secondhand smoke can kill you and not even liking the smell of it, even if it doesn't kill you, have correctly decided that for public health reasons, smokers shouldn't be able to smoke indoors when the rest of us are around. This is a simple, rational policy based on medicine and science, which used to count for something in the old medicine and science days. Anyway, I feel really bad for my smoking friends, particularly back east, who have to puff away outside in the winter, all huddled up in the cold and the rain to feed their nicotine habit. That brings us to New Jersey, which has great diners and great bagels and great pizza and great toll plazas, but also a handful of casinos in Atlantic City living in a smoke-filled boardwalk empire. 18 years ago, New Jersey did the right thing. The Smoke-Free Air Act banned indoor tobacco use in most public indoor spaces. There were exceptions, for instance, casinos. Casino employees finally sued, challenging the law on the grounds that casino workers' right to personal health safety protections under the New Jersey Constitution were being violated. Well, a New Jersey Superior Court judge dismissed the claim. The judge ruled that the Smoke-Free Air Act does not hinder or affect a person's ability to seek work in a smoke-free environment. Really? Is it me or is it them? Huh? It's them. What's he talking about? So instead of a 33-page opinion, the judge should have simply said, screw you, screw the public, and you all can go f*** yourselves. There's an old expression, money talks and secondhand smoke walks. This is a slam dunk public issue. We know the effects of tobacco. This isn't 1955, is it? Is it?
No.
Okay. What year are we in?
2024.
2024, that's what I thought. This ain't 1955. Money talks and secondhand smoke walks. Now, there's got to be some type of old-fashioned monetary transactions, I imagine, transpiring which some casino person is handing some envelope stuffed with some cash to various legislators, and jurists in some parking lot in some warehouse district. Money talks and secondhand smoke walks. This is called profits before people. Heaven forbid we interrupt the flow of capitalism in the name of saving some lives. There is some fear among these profiteers that if you stop smoking in casinos, people will stop coming to casinos. That's been proven untrue. Heck, they banned smoking at airports and in airplanes years and years ago, and people still fly. They still fly. Now, by the way, imagine walking into a smoke-filled Target or Best Buy or your local supermarket in 2024. This is 2024, right? Yes. Imagine walking into a smoke-filled Target or Best Buy or a supermarket and having to wander around looking for fresh produce or toilet paper and a tobacco haze. Ain't happening. No smoking is both the right decision and it's good for business. And hey, people never stop gambling. They find ways to gamble even if they don't have money. I have friends who will walk across the desert barefoot with an orangutan on their shoulder just to play Keno at Caesar's Palace. All right, let's stay with this power of gambling theme a little longer. I want you all to conduct a personal experiment. Go fetch your 85-year-old grandmother, okay? Let's put her in solitary for 30 days. Isolated in a room, no TV, no books, no video games, no nothing. And all she gets is bread and water. Twice a day, she gets 2 slices of bread, she gets some water, all that for 30 days. Then let her out of isolation for 30 days. Hand her a roll of quarters and lead her into another room in which there's a vending machine full of snacks and beverages, and then there's a slot machine. I'm telling you, as Lucky Luciano is my witness, your grandmother will go to the slot machine first. Do it at home. Let me know how it works out. Let's talk capitalism. Okay? I believe in a kinder, gentler capitalism, or what I like to call capitalism with a smile. So Los Angeles Dodgers disagree with me. The Dodgers are home to Shohei Ohtani, the greatest show on earth. And the Dodgers are also home to the largest fan base in MLB, leading baseball in home attendance year after year. The Dodgers recently had Shohei Ohtani bobblehead night. For starters, to get your free Shohei Ohtani bobblehead, the Dodgers jacked up ticket prices. For instance, a $36 seat went for $131, meaning your free Shohei Ohtani bobblehead actually cost you an extra $95. On top of that, Shohei Ohtani bobbleheads were available only to the first 40,000 fans to arrive to Dodger Stadium. There was going to be a sellout with 53,000 fans. The Dodgers claim there were either budget constraints and or logistical constraints preventing them from ordering 53,000 bobbleheads. Okay, really? The bobblehead distributor they contacted months and months and months earlier told them they could only produce 40,000 bobbleheads, not 53,000? Or the Dodgers, whose franchise is valued at more than $5 billion, couldn't afford to spring for an extra 13,000 bobbleheads, charging a premium price for tickets that night? In addition, and this is where capitalism really kicks in, with the Dodgers promotion only good for the first 40,000 fans, and they knew that, that meant thousands and thousands of fans showed up at the stadium like 3 hours early to ensure themselves a bobblehead, which means thousands and thousands of fans end up being in the stadium for hours and hours early to buy a little more, overpriced concessions. Yes, overpriced concessions. Ka-ching! I am a capitalist. Believe me, I am a capitalist, but sometimes I hate capitalism. And let's just be human here. Can we be human between you and me? You're taking a family of 4 to the game that day. You're taking them because you want your 2 little kids to get bobbleheads. But you get there, half hour before the game. There's no bobbleheads left. You went to the game, paid a premium price. Your 2 little kids are denied bobbleheads. And then they got to sit there for 3 hours. And like 4 out of 5 people around them have the bobbleheads. your poor kids are going home bobbleheadless. It ain't right. I like capitalism with a smile. All right, folks, it is time for NFL picks. Got off to a mediocre start last week in our belated start to the season. I was 2-3, but that's no big deal. Most weeks you're going to go 3-2 or 2-3. That's the way it works when you pick 5 games. The idea to having a season over 500 is to avoid the 1-4s and the 0-5s. And actually, the idea is to just get enough 4-1s more than you have 1-4s, so you finish over 500. I finish over 500 almost every year. 2-3 is not a problem. I will be doing a good job the rest of the year. Why will I be doing a good job the rest of the year? I'll tell you why. I am a left-handed genius. Well, actually, this is my right hand. Okay, I am a left-handed genius. So our picks will be pretty darn good. Let's get started with the picks. And we will start with Rams at Bears. The Rams had a miracle victory last week against San Francisco, probably the biggest miracle in Hollywood since Julia Roberts agreed to marry Lyle Lovett. The Bears should not be favored here, but the Rams have too many injuries, to which I say, 1, injuries, schminjuries. We play hurt here in L.A. And 2, sometimes your second choice, or the backups, they play better than the regulars. Take Shawshank Redemption, one of the most beloved movies in America the last 30 years. They wanted Tom Hanks or Kevin Costner to play the lead role, but they ended up using Tim Robbins. They wanted Clint Eastwood or Gene Hackman to play Red, but they ended up using Morgan Freeman. Shawshank ended up as a winner. The Rams can do the same. I am taking the Rams plus 2.5. Eagles at Buccaneers. And I want to take a moment to talk privately to Eagles coach Nick Sirianni. He treats 4th down like it's a Rubik's Cube. Coach, it's not that difficult of a puzzle. When you punt, you should go for it. When you go for it, you should kick a field goal, and you should always kick a field goal before you do anything else. Points matter. You got to ignore the analytic geeks, okay? They don't keep score of games, and they don't really have any type of job, okay? Thank goodness, by the way, the NFL doesn't have 5th down. That would take Nick Sirianni to the brink of insanity. I'm going with the Buccaneers at home as an underdog. Bengals at Panthers. The Panthers are a bad team. I'm surprised the owner doesn't sell them anytime at halftime of any game. I do have to tip my cap to Andy Dalton, who replaced Bryce Young as quarterback last week. Dalton is 36 years old. He's played for 5 teams in the last 6 years. He should be selling vacuum cleaners at QVC, yet he looked incredibly good against the Raiders. So, can the Bengals, who've been playing like a bad team, can they really go to 0-4? Well, they are 0-3, so the answer is yes, but I just don't think Joe Burrow is going to allow it to happen. I am taking the Bengals minus 4.5. It's time for our Colander Pick of the Week. Colander Picks of the Week, 58% since the Vietnam War. Browns at Raiders. These are 2 sinful teams playing in a sinful game in Sin City. I am not a fan of Deshaun Watson, and I'm not a fan of anyone who wears a Raiders uniform on the field or off the field. This game should have heavy law enforcement presence, which brings me back to Deshaun Watson. He's been sacked 16 times in 3 games. Now, when I played quarterback, and granted it wasn't at the level of the NFL, but when I played, I knew that if someone was coming at me from my right, throw the ball. If someone was coming at me from my left, throw the ball. Deshaun, do what I used to do. Count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi in your head, and when you get to 3 Mississippi, throw the ball. I'm going to take the Browns. I think Sean's going to take my advice. Deshaun, you're +1. Let's cover the spread. And finally, Titans at Dolphins. This is the Monday Night Football game, and actually there are 2 Monday Night Football games this week, specifically to allow you to ignore this one. If they put Titans-Dolphins on at Cedars-Sinai, every patient would walk out of the hospital. The quarterback matchup is likely Will Levis versus Skylar Thompson. That's like Inspector Clouseau versus Barney Fife. Never heard of Inspector Clouseau or Barney Fife. Google them, you dingleberries! Now, last week, I closed my eyes and I picked the Titans. Bad idea. This week, I'm going to close my eyes and pick the Titans again. And if they don't cover for me again, I will never pick the Titans ever again as long as this quarterback is the quarterback. I am taking the Titans +1. Time for D-Gens. Gonna D-Gen. Matthew Gabriel of Philadelphia got into an online disagreement with a member of his fantasy football league chat group. So what did the 25-year-old do? After learning this member would be studying abroad in Norway, Gabriel submitted false anonymous tips to law enforcement that the man was planning a mass shooting in Oslo. Gabriel claimed his fantasy buddy was going to shoot people at a concert and then in a department store. Police spent several days and hundreds of hours investigating the threat. Prosecutors also discovered that Gabriel emailed the University of Iowa earlier this year saying that his fantasy cohort was thinking of blowing up the school. Gabriel has pleaded guilty to 2 counts of interstate and foreign communication of threats. D-Gens, gonna D-Gen. But I'm thinking of benching C.D. Lamb this week. He just hasn't been that focused. And I'd like to win my league. It's time for the weather. On occasion, we provide weather forecasts when a particular area of the United States is going to be adversely affected. So to do that, we will go over to our national weather map to give you our weekend forecast. I know some of you still don't believe in climate change. You should believe in climate change. We have an apocalyptic situation developing this weekend. Let's go to our national weather map. We have a warm front coming in from the Pacific. We have a warm front coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. They just don't stop coming, do they? We have a warm front that will be coming in across the plains. This is a hot plains. It's windy. And then you usually get a cold front coming in from Canada, but guess what? This week it's going to be a warm front. All of this is going to create an incredible spaghetti bowl of heat in the state of Arizona. Arizona is under threat this weekend in Phoenix at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon. It will be 148 degrees in Phoenix this way, and it says 148 in the shade. There is no shade in Phoenix, as I've told you before. Only palm trees, no shade. Go inside, turn the AC down to 30. This is your weekend weather update. I'm Norman Chad. For more updates, you can call me at home. I have traffic and weather on the 5s. Before we wrap up, I'm going to say this one time and one time only. Hey, America, why don't you let the citizens of Washington, D.C. become full-fledged Americans? Ever hear of taxation without representation? That helped fuel the American Revolution because that was the case of our colonial forefathers living in the British Empire. Well, guess what? The people of Washington, D.C., almost 700,000 of them, are victims of taxation without representation. If you live in the nation's capital, you do not have a voting representative in Congress. How did this happen? Well, originally Washington, D.C. was just going to be a federal district where government was run, but it evolved into a residential area, a living, breathing city. Almost 700,000 residents today have no representation in Congress. Easy to fix. However, at the moment, most there are Democrats, so Republicans will not give the okay because they don't want to give Democrats another vote in Congress, and it would be the same the other way around. Either way, it ain't right. It ain't America. And yet it ain't changing. Yes, good people, this is a load of hooey, and this is a bunch of balderdash. Yeah, I'm going to end today's program rather disgusted, thoroughly disgusted. But thanks again for joining us for another edition of Gambling Mad. I am Norman Chad. Hope to see you again next time. And remember, if you're going to roll the dice, make sure they're loaded.
Gambling Mad with Norm Chad is written by Norm Chad and ghostwritten by Norm Chad. Executive producer John Scheinberg, Rick Barrio-Dill, and produced by Norm Chad and Rick Barrio-Dill. Associate producer is Bree Coury. Showrunner is Dan Telfer. Audio video engineering and studio studio facilities provided by 360 Pod Studios Beverly Hills and Slap Studios LA. If you want to complain to Norm about anything, make sure to reach out at Gambling Mad Show, anywhere you get your socials, and at Gambling Mad with Norm Chad on YouTube. And if you really want to get at him, send a message to info@slapstudiosla.com. And big thanks to Tony, the special sauce, who truly is the boss. Thank you for the cookies and the treats. We promise you to make the post-production move faster.